Good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I'm your host, Preston Proctor. So I guess we're playing Utah. We got Utah tonight, and in the last podcast, which was not about Utah, somehow and then I forgot to bring my notebook in here. New decorum, try to bring stuff in here, so if I think of something, I can write it down, but I won't be doing that today. Anyway, as far as the Utah's new name, apparently there's nothing new on that horizon. They are filing a lot of trademark requests in order. The rumor is is just to kind of confuse people and leave it open as to what the actual nickname is going to be. There was 3, I think, that the fans got to vote on, one of which was Utah Hockey Club, which you got to be kidding me, but. The one they wanted, the Utah Yetis, they couldn't come to an agreement with the Yeti company, and so therefore that didn't work out. But anyway, and speaking of Utah, moving on to the playoff watch, Utah has now been eliminated, and Vancouver has also been eliminated. The Devils clinched last night. This is all what happened yesterday. The day before, Ottawa clinched. Washington clinched the division title, and Buffalo was eliminated. So the way we're currently looking at it, and I would always prefer to start in the Western Conference, but ESPN loves to start with the Eastern. The media love the Eastern Conference. They especially love the Atlantic Division, except for the Florida teams. But anyway, that's another day, a previous day and a future day. But in the Atlantic, we've still got Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Florida in that order. There's a 3-point gap between all of them with 4 points, 4 games left. And I don't. You would like to think that they were playing each other here at the end of the season to kind of firm that up. But looking at Toronto's schedule, they're playing Montreal, Carolina, Buffalo, and Detroit. So I guess they just played Tampa Bay and won in overtime. So at least they did play once. But I mean, you can never predict that kind of thing. So it's a schedule. So most likely 3 points, 4 games to go. That's probably not going to change. So probably Toronto, Tampa Bay, Florida are your 1, 2, 3 in the Atlantic. The Metropolitan, Washington has clinched the division, so they will be the 1 seed. There are big gaps in there. They've got an 11-point gap over the Hurricanes, who have a 7-point gap over the Devils. 7 points over the Devils. The Devils have 4 games left, so that order is set: Washington, Carolina, New Jersey. The important things about that, the 2 and 3 teams in the divisions play each other. The 2 seed gets the home ice. Let's see if I got this right. They play 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. They used to do 2, 3, and 2 as far as the playoff game format. Argument against that was that if the lower seeded team won one of the first 2 games because they got 3 at home, that immediately flipped the home ice, which the second seeded team or the higher seeded team, hockey does reorder. And then they do this at every step in the playoffs. So the higher seed team would lose their home ice advantage, and so they went to a 2-2-1-1-1 in order to try to, whatever the circumstances happened, the higher seeded team would have the opportunity of having the home ice advantage, not having to wait to Game 6 again to play at home. It would be Game 5 instead. So that's the way hockey does it. And so Tampa Bay and Florida will be playing each other. Carolina and New Jersey will be playing each other. And then as far as the wild card teams go, the lower seeded wild card team plays the conference champion. So the divisional champion with the most number of points, and then the first wild card team plays the division champion with the lesser number of points. Not always second in the conference, but yeah, that's how that goes. Ottawa in the East, Ottawa has clinched a playoff spot. Now they are 3 points ahead of Montreal, who has 4 games left. So using the same metric, most likely, that won't change. Montreal has won 6 in a row. One of those games being, Nashville. So they've won 6 in a row. They could win out. They could wind up winning 10 in a row. Other teams have won 10 in a row, but it's the likelihood of winning your next game decreases with the more games that you've won preceding you. Just from a normal distribution of things, which is not really the right term. But anyway, so still in the East, they still list 4 teams as potentially being able to have that second wild card spot, but that doesn't seem likely. Montreal has an 8-point lead over the Islanders and the Red Wings. Both of those teams have 5 games left. Actually, I guess it's 8 points on, 79 points for Detroit, New York, Columbus, and the Rangers. The Rangers only have 4 games left, so I guess they're right on that cut line. But the other ones have, at least a point in hand. They could, or I guess 2 points. They could wind up at 89. So the Canadian spot isn't. They haven't clinched it yet, I guess is the thing. But they've pretty much, they would have to fall apart to. And the other teams would have to just go. They'd have to get 9. Montreal would have to lose their last 4, which is not unheard of. And the other teams would have to at least win 4 and then get an overtime loss out of their last 5, which is not out of the realm of possibility. But the 2 scenarios happening in coincidence is highly unlikely. But we'll see. We'll see. In the Western Conference, we have Winnipeg in the Central Division, Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado. Winnipeg has 4 points on Dallas, and Dallas has 6 on Colorado. Colorado only has 3 games left, so the Dallas has a lead in the regulation wins too, but if they were not to win again and wound up tied with Colorado, then Colorado would have 42, maybe 42 regulation wins if they won all those games in regulation. And then if it did wind up going to regulation overtime wins, then Dallas does have the advantage. So Dallas pretty much has the tiebreaker on Colorado. All they've got to do is win one more game, and they're sure to the second. Now, they are 4 points behind Winnipeg with 4 games left. So I think we can pretty much put a fork in that contest. Winnipeg is going to be number 1, then Dallas and Colorado. As far as the conference title goes, Winnipeg does have 7 points on Vegas. Vegas has 4 games left. So I think we can stick a fork in that one too. Winnipeg is going to win the Western Conference. And 110 points with 4 games left. Washington is at 107 with 5 games left. So there is still room. I guess the President's Cup is still up for debate. Winnipeg in the driver's seat, but you can't rule out Washington. And you can't, they've got to play their games and they prove that you can lose to anybody or beat anybody. That's your Central Conference. And then in the Pacific, Vegas has an 8-point lead on the Kings, who have 5 games left, so stick a fork in that competition. The Kings and Edmonton Kings have a 2-point advantage, and Edmonton has played 1 additional game. Big headline on NHL. Connor McDavid is back. Oh my gosh, we haven't been able to talk about Connor McDavid. Thank God he was injured while Ovechkin got his final goal, because what would the NHL have done if they couldn't, if they had to interrupt their constant Connor McDavid coverage in order to talk about the blasé goal, most goals ever scored by Ovechkin, because, we got to talk about Connor McDavid. Woo! Oh my gosh. Whatever. He's a great player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's a great player. Edmonton is a good team. Hype. I just get tired of it. I mean, it's the only team in the Western Conference that they want to talk about. It just cracked me up last year. Dallas was competing for the President's Cup, had points out the wazoo. And Mark Mercier, not Mercier, what's his name? Played for the Rangers, played for Edmonton. Maybe that's right. I forget. Anyway, but one of the commentators on NHL Today, and he's like, gosh, here we are at the end of this. Gosh, we haven't talked about Dallas. Dallas is, it's like, well, no, because you're so busy talking about the Eastern Conference. Anyway, I think it is Messier. Mark Messier? Whatever. Who cares? It's Catherine Tappan or nobody. I always liked Catherine Tappan and that goaltender. He was the goaltender. He was the goaltender for Carolina. Kevin Weeks. Kevin Weeks and Catherine Tappan. I thought they did a really good job. But I always enjoyed that. So anyway, that one is still questionable. Last year, Edmonton wound up 2, and the Kings 3, and the home ice just really the Kings suck this year on the road. So if they need that home. I mean, they're 15-19-5. They've got the worst road record, I think, of anybody in a playoff spot. It's not. I mean. Yeah, if they weren't 29-5-4 at home, I mean, that's sick. That is a sick home record. And it's also a very sick road record, just a different way of looking at sick. Yeah, so that is still up for grabs. I would have to say I am less and less of a Kings fan. I'm really ready for Doughty and Kopitar to retire, and then I could just give up on being a Kings fan because I wouldn't know anybody else that's playing for the team. But it looks like the Kings play Anaheim tonight. They play Colorado on Saturday. Then they go to Edmonton on Monday, and then they play Seattle on Tuesday. So they've got a back-to-back cross-border Edmonton, Seattle, and then they finish the season at Calgary. So they do at least play Edmonton, which is that game is Monday night. The NHL will be covering it because Connor McDavid is in it. Otherwise, they don't really care. Okay. Let's move on. Okay, so that's the Pacific. Again, Dallas and Colorado will be playing each other. Dallas will have the home in the Central, and then LA and Edmonton will be playing each other. There's no doubt about that. Edmonton hasn't clinched a position yet. Let's see. Calgary is at 88. 7-point difference with 4 games left. Okay, fine, whatever. Both of the wild card teams are coming out of the Central Division. So, and I think that's true up here. Ottawa, Montreal coming out of the Atlantic. I think that's right. I get confused sometimes on who's in what division, but yeah. So then in the wild card spots in the West, they're tied at 93 points. Minnesota and St. Louis. St. Louis has played one more. So after having their really big run, they've lost two. Minnesota has now won two, and Minnesota is now in the driver's seat for the first wild card spot. The first wild card spot will play Vegas, and the second wild card spot will play Winnipeg. And it always does. It doesn't necessarily mean you don't want to play the higher seed, because you could play better. There are some teams that just always show up against another team, and so you might prefer to go against Winnipeg and or go against Vegas. You might prefer. You want. You being a wild card team, you're always going to be 7 or 8 seeds, so you're always going to be playing the highest seed left. Kings did that. They came in 2012 when they won the Stanley Cup. They came in as the 8th seed. They had to play. They played the 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3 seed, and beat them all. So that was fun. But anyway, yeah. So the only thing left is Calgary. Calgary is 5 points out of a wild card spot with 5 games left. They do have 2 in hand on St. Louis. That would get them up to 92. So St. Louis is still in the driver's seat on that one. Minnesota is in the driver's seat on a wild card spot and on the first wild card spot. So we'll see how that plays out over time. Take a quick look here and see who Minnesota is playing. Minnesota is playing. They play Calgary, Vancouver, and Anaheim. So they, So they control their own fate. So that's what the playoffs are starting to look like. Really looking like. As for your transaction watch for the Preds, let's switch back over to the Predators here for a minute. On the 8th of April, Kiefer Bellows was reassigned to Milwaukee. Kiefer Bellows is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. He has played a number of games with the Preds, and now he's back down in Minnesota. Which is fun. I don't know. Minnesota's probably in a better shot for the playoffs. I haven't looked at their record. I don't know where they're at. But anyway, so he's been reassigned to Milwaukee. And yesterday, unrestricted free agent this year, 2025, goaltender Matthew Murray was signed to a 2-year, 2-way contract. So that takes him off the board of unrestricted free agents, which leaves us with 4 unrestricted free agents left in the 2025, unrestricted free agents 2025, which is Bellows, England, Vrana, and Friedman. Bellows, England, and Vrana have played with the main club. Friedman he'd been called up, but he didn't get any ice time during a game. Unrestricted free agent group 6. Something to do with being a certain age, and that would be Mark Del Gaizo, Gregory Denisenko, and Jake Livingstone. Del Gaizo and Denisenko have played with the main club. Livingstone has not. Del Gaizo, kind of a stalwart. Didn't really get what happened. He got put on waivers and then kept playing for the Preds. I have to go do some research and figure out how that one worked. Restricted free agents, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Most notably, Luke Evangelista is a restricted free agent at the end of this year. And then Andre Pavel, Jesse Ylonen, those two have played with the club. Restricted free agents that have not, Jordan Frasca, Navran Muter, and Luke Prokop. So that is the free agent watch. As I said, tonight we play the Utah Hockey Club. Utah Hockey Club. It is the second game of 3 versus Utah. We'll get to play them again here in a couple days. This is the only one in Utah this year. Monday, we play again here in Nashville. So far, Nashville is 1-0 against Utah this year, winning 4-0 in Nashville. Last year against Arizona, different story. Nashville was 1-3 against Arizona last year. I assume most people know, but never know who's listening to your podcast. Arizona, well, I'm relating Arizona and Utah. Arizona didn't move to Utah. The team moved, the franchise did not. So there still is an NHL franchise in Arizona. They're building this big complex in Glendale, and when that's completed, kind of the deal was the NHL would assign another team there. But since there's nowhere for the team to play, the team moved to Utah. And it's such a point in time where they didn't have a lot of time to come up with a nickname, which is why they call themselves the Utah Hockey Club. And if they remain the Utah Hockey Club, I am really going to be extremely disappointed. How boring. I mean, how boring. Anyway, it is funny when you see, there'll be graphics that'll be like, the Flyers versus the Ducks, and it'll be, the Flames versus the Hockey Club. And you're like, what? It's not really, you have to always call them Utah, the Hockey Club. There are a lot of hockey clubs. It's not like that's unique. Like you have any idea. I mean, I guess it is unique in the NHL, but it's just, hey, did you see the hockey club game last night? You got to be more specific, dude, because, we got all these minor league teams. We've got, we've got club teams. I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like just a club team. I mean, come on. Get a real, I'm not exactly. The Grizzlies, the Grizzlies, I guess that the NBA has a Grizzlies, but anyway, so that's why I bring up Arizona, because the team moved from Arizona to Utah, but the franchise did not. It's interesting. Did some research on this when I was going back and doing my analysis of the awards, the NHL awards, and was trying to get a decent historical perspective about what teams had won what awards throughout the years. And Arizona was they started off as the Phoenix Coyotes, and then they became the Arizona Coyotes. And apparently they don't claim the history of the Phoenix Coyotes. It's just like it's evaporated. And now if you go to the NHL site, it's like Arizona never existed either. So, which was kind of a predicament because, okay, so do I include, when I'm talking about Arizona, do I talk about, can you count the awards won by Phoenix if Arizona doesn't include it? And where the things get kind of difficult there is like Winnipeg, because like Winnipeg had a team, didn't have a team, had a team again. And if you look at their website, it's like that first team they had never existed. So it was just kind of weird how the history of teams gets muddled like that. Just strange. And then on the other hand, take a team like Toronto, which I forget what version. Toronto had some other. I didn't really go back. There was some other team that in Toronto, there wasn't an NHL team, but they claim all of the accolades that team got. It's like the Quinnipiacs or something, Toronto Quinnipiacs or something like that. Argonauts, I don't know. Well, I think Argonauts are a Canadian football team, but be that as it may, it's just weird how I mean, I guess the owner changed, but the franchise is the franchise, and so it just seems like, if you're going to keep your fans and when you've got this team in Arizona to connect with your fans, the fans of your team were the fans of the Phoenix Coyotes, why ignore that? I mean, here in Nashville, the Titans go out in Oiler uniforms when they play Houston. So they embrace that part of their history, and I don't like it because I get confused as to watched one of those games. I didn't know what team to pull for. It took me a minute, but it was bizarre for me to see how the NHL teams seem to not want to recognize what else has happened in their city when it was the Winnipeg Jets. It's the Winnipeg Jets again, but the first instance of the Winnipeg Jets they don't want to claim. So it's tough doing analysis with stuff like that. What I think it was how did that go? Hartford Whalers moved to Atlanta. Atlanta moved to somewhere else. Anyway, so it was kind of an interesting investigation when I was trying to research and do a good statistical analysis of the bias of awards in the NHL, which I did find for most of them, not all, but for most of them, and it was interesting what teams are biased. Like I said, it was say they love the Atlantic Division, they just do not like the Florida teams. And then the Panthers won the Stanley Cup, and Tampa Bay's won it twice. And winning the Stanley Cup doesn't generally, in fact, it usually if you win the Stanley Cup, you don't win a whole lot of other awards, which I think is also kind of interesting. And then you take a look at the subjective versus the objective awards. The subjective award, like the player that exhibits the most character on and off the ice, versus. Or even like the Norris Trophy, the trophy for the quote-unquote best defenseman. And then, as opposed to the ones that are based on statisticals, which is the person with the most points, or the Brody Trophy, the goaltender with the lowest goals against average, those sorts of things. So you take a look at, who's winning the objective awards, and you compare that, and there's more subjective awards. I think it's like 17-6 or 17-8, something like that. It's a lot more subjective awards, and you get these three. There's three awards that basically go to the same player. It's the player. The player deemed by the media to be the most important for the team. The player deemed by the players to be the most important for their team, and usually the person that gets the most points wins one or both of those. And those two trophies may not go to that person that got the most points, but in that case they will go to the same person. So the same person will get two or three awards, and it's like, well, can you really? Was it the Hart? And can you really? I mean, what's the point? I mean, really. I mean, I think out of the 30 award years, I think those trophies went to the same person 24 times. I'm like, okay, then there's no difference in the award. Why do we have two awards if they're going to give them to the same person? Okay, so the players and the media all get together and they think the same person is the most important person for that team. Well, okay, then fine, one trophy. But there you go. Anyway, I just want to call out, and maybe calling this out invalidates it. Like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You can't, in order to measure the speed of an atom, you change its position, and in order to evaluate its position, you change its speed. And so you can never know the the exact position and speed of an atom, because in measuring one of the quantities, you change the other. And so that's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And so it's kind of like, did I mention the Vezina trophy or did I not mention the trophy? Because I didn't mention it, but then I mentioned it because I hadn't mentioned it. But I just want to call out that I did the goaltender trophy and the general managers determine who wins. And that crazy. That's the thing that gets me. 25 out of 30 years went to the Eastern Conference. When 12 of those years, the Western Conference won the Stanley Cup. 2 of them by Jonathan Quick, who didn't win the Vezina. But I didn't mention it. What are we doing here? Okay, so we're playing Utah tonight. You'd never know that by listening to this podcast. So we're playing Utah tonight. Utah is 36-30-12. They're 18-15-7 at home. That is a decent home record. The Preds also have a decent home record. The Utes, Utah, the hockey club. See, that just doesn't roll off. Utah is 6th in the Central with 84 points. They are 9 behind Minnesota and St. Louis, but since they have only 4 games left, that eliminates them. Minnesota has played 1 more. St. Louis has played 2 more, but it's irrelevant because the Utah only has 4 games left. Utah is 20 games ahead of Nashville. I also don't have to worry about that. So they're 6th. They're going to be 6th. Just like the Preds are going to be 7th, but that's skipping ahead a little bit. For them, this is the last game of 5 in their homestand. So far, they are 3-1, having beaten Calgary, lost to the Kings, beaten Winnipeg, and beat Seattle. They finished the season with 3 on the road. Saturday, they're in Dallas. Monday, back here in Nashville. And then why not finish off the season with a back-to-back? Tuesday, they play St. Louis. So they're finishing 3 games are not easy. The St. Louis game could, I guess the last game of the year, could have implications on the ordering of the wild card. Otherwise, not so much. At the trade deadline, they did have 1 trade with Chicago. So that one was... I guess it's a trade for a trade. They acquired a 5th round 2026 draft pick from Chicago, giving up forward Aku Ratti, defenseman Victor Soderstrom, and defenseman Shea Weber. Soderstrom and Ratti, I think, are primarily AHL players, and Shea Weber has a few games under his belt. So they get 3 players for a 5th round 2026 draft pick from Chicago, but so that didn't really affect their trajectory. I didn't look to see. Utah, I think, has always kind of been in the mix, so they didn't make their team better. As far as players that we're not going to see tonight, it's hard to say. These 2 of these players have been out. Their dates of coming back keep moving. Now that they're eliminated, there's less incentive to try to bring people back. But number 15 center Alexander Kerfoot, day to day, he's played 77 games, so he's been with the team for a lot, but not really stats worthy. Number 6 defenseman John Marino, day-to-day as well. Only 35 games, and that was about the only stat. The interesting thing, goaltender Connor Ingram, who was in 2022, October 10th of 2022, claimed by Arizona when Nashville put him on waivers. Get to the goaltenders later, but he started off the season as the starting goaltender, and he is out. He only had played, 21 games, 9-8-4. But yeah, he has a little bit of a history with Nashville, having been a minor league player. But out for, personal reasons, seems like. And then number 38 center Liam O'Brien, out for the rest of the season, only played 27 games. And I like to call these out because I love some of the names of the minor league teams. On the 8th of April, they reassigned left wing Noel Norda and sent center Owen Allard to the Tucson Roadrunners. Now, interesting thing, Allard, Nord was with Utah, and they sent him back down. Allard was a minor league move. He was with the Ontario Hockey League, and moved to the Roadrunners. I assume that's kind of a promotion. But he was with the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Sault Ste. Marie. And but apparently that gets shortened to Sioux Greyhounds. SOO Greyhounds. I don't know why. Sioux. Maybe they have a lot of pigs in Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie. But the Greyhounds. So the Roadrunners, the Tucson Roadrunners. Okay. And then more of note, and I'll touch more on this player later. On the 7th, they recalled number 56 right wing Kyler Yamamoto from Tucson, and he's one of my players to watch. So I definitely, there was a move they made, and like I said, I will get to it later, but assuming he stays with the club, I guess at this point, I don't know. I guess it all depends on what's going on in the AHL and, what they're doing. But now that they're eliminated, I think the things are going to be a little bit different in Utah than what they would have been had they not been eliminated, which is fair, I think. For your Nashville Predators, they are 28, 42, and 8 on the road, a 9, 25, and 5. So we got 2 road games. The last 2 road games, tonight and Saturday. Please win one of those. Please. Let's just have double-digit wins. Double-digit wins on the road. It's been a pathetic year, bad on the road. Let's just double-digit wins. Let's not finish the season like this. Let's just win one of these 2. Come on. Well, we got Utah tonight, and then was it Dallas? No, Dallas is at the end of the season. Vegas. Oh, Vegas. Yeah, we got Vegas. So we play Utah, and then we go to Vegas. We play Saturday in Vegas. Let's just beat Utah tonight, be done with it. And then we could beat Utah again on Monday, and then we'll make sure to have a winning record at home, which would also be fine. So that's just, we've got 4 games left, 2 against Utah. Let's just beat Utah. Vegas and Dallas, whatever. I'd rather going to be at the Dallas game, last game of the year. Like that to be a win. Don't expect that game to change anything, but Dallas, does want to go into the playoffs with on a poor note. The Preds are 7th in the Central Division. That's where they're going to finish up. They're going to finish third bottom in the league, 3rd worst in the league. There's nowhere to go. They are 10 points ahead of Chicago, which 4 remaining, so there's nothing going to be there. They're 20 behind Utah, so there's division. They're not going to be able to change positions as far as where they're at the bottom of the league. Chicago is below them, 10 points. So that's, that is not going to change. And then the team ahead of them is the teams, Philadelphia and Boston are 9 points ahead of them, and the Preds have 4 games. So this is where the Preds are going to finish the year. They're going to finish the year with the 3rd worst record in the league. As far as the fight for the bottom, Chicago and San Jose both have 4 games left, and Chicago has 3 points on Chicago. So let's see, San Jose has lost 7 in a row. Anybody can screw up and win a couple of games and take themselves out of a position for the draft. I forget the exact way the NHL does it, but it's not set by your finishing position. It's a lottery, and the lower down you are, the higher the percentage, the more chances you get to get the top pick. Doesn't always work out that way. The Kings, I think, a few years ago when we went to the draft, had the worst record, and they wound up picking second, which, still not as immediately influential the NHL draft is versus like the NFL, like football. More like a lot of ways, it's more like baseball. Baseball, it tends to take a lot longer. And sometimes hockey can be more like basketball, where basketball, they draft people out of high school, or they were. I guess they have to have 1 year of college now, or they have to be 19 or something like that. But one player in a basketball game can make a huge difference. So, and they don't have a minor league. But yeah, kind of a little bit more like baseball. Bring them in, then they play around, get some bulk, and a little bit more experience. So it takes a few years for somebody to come up after being drafted. Usually, not always. There are some players that come right out after being drafted. But yeah, we were at the draft in Vancouver. Was it 2019? Pretty cool. But anyway, so that's where the Preds are going to wind up. This is the start of a 2-game road trip, the last road trip of the season. Saturday, Vegas is the last game. A player update, Colton Sissons is out for the rest of the season, so is Josi. Jonathan Marchessault was out. He did play versus the Islanders, so he's back. And then on the 8th, Kiefer Bellows and defenseman Spencer Stastny were reassigned to Milwaukee. So they are back down with the Admirals. Which brings us to our road stats. The Predators are 9-25-5. 9-25-5. The first goal, we start with the first goal. If they get it, they are 7-4-2. If they do not, they are 2-21-3. So 7-4-2 if they do get it, so that's kind of a winning record. If they get it in the first period, they are 3-3-2, which is more of a coin flip. If they get it in the second period, it's now 4-1. It was 4-0 until they got it in the second period the other night and lost the game. So with 2 games left, I expect that big fat 0 that I haven't mentioned yet. And so in the second period, if the first goal is in the second period and the other team gets it, they're 0-7. So until the game the other night, they were 4-0 if they got it in the second period, and 0-7 if the other guys got it. And I supposed that there weren't enough games left to really change that to get the exception to prove the rule, and I was wrong that night. Thank you for pointing that out. But 0-7, 2 games left. It's just not going to happen. It's going to be 0, and they're going to finish the season 0-7. Doesn't mean that the opponents can't give up a goal and the Preds still win. I mean, there is a 2 in that 2-21-3, but they have not been prolific in getting the first goal on the road. They have not been prolific in scoring on the road. They have not been good at much of anything on the road. And so winning by period, they don't win very many periods. They are not in double digits in any period for wins. The first period, they're 7, 13, and 19. The interesting part of those numbers is they are just about as likely to tie the first period as they are to either win or lose. So that's 20 games where they win or lose the first period in 19. The second period, more towards losses, of course. They are 9, 18, and 12. So close. It's close. A little more weighted towards wins and ties, but about as likely to lose it as win or tie it. And then in the third period, they're 8, 17, and 14. Just not inclined to win the third period is the problem there. But who cares? You win, lose, or draw each period. It only matters is how does that influence the outcome. And in the first period, when they have won the first period, they're 3-4. So even when they win the first period, they've still only got, the coin flip on whether or not they're going to win the game. If they lose it, they're 1-12. And if they tie it, they're 5-14. So this is not very, they haven't won that many games. So it's not surprising. The second period, if they win it, they are 6-3. So that's really good. 1-17 if they lose it, 2-10 if they tie it. The third period, again, if they win it, they are 6-2. 1-16 if they tie, and 2-12 if they lose it. And taking out the empty nets, it becomes a coin flip on winning it, 5-4. They lose it 3-12 and tie it 1-14. So the correlations. This is where I get into this really weird vibe of what I'm pulling for on the road games, because the best scenario, unfortunately, is to tie the first and win the second. So tie the first and win the second. In those situations, that's happened 5 times, and they're 5-0. If they tie the first and they lose the second, they're 0-8. And if they tie the first and tie the second, they're 0-4-2. So if they tie the first, they better win the second or they're screwed. If they lose the first and win the second, they're 1-2-1. So that's still not great. Lose the first, lose the second, 0-6. Lose the first, tie the second, 0-3. Losing the first does not really move the needle. It moves the needle in the wrong direction, is what it does. If they win the first, they have not yet won the first and won the second. That would be another 0 that would be fun to take off the board. You win 2 periods, generally you win the game, pretty much stick a fork in it. But that has not happened on the road for the Preds this year. It has happened 5 times at home. All of those were wins. If you win the first and lose the second 4 times, 1, 1, and 2, so that's not superior. Win the first, tie the second, so they're 2, 1, and 0. So again, winning the first, what's that? 3, 3, and 2, just in general. So not the scenario you're looking for. So that's why I get to the tie the first, win the second is the winning combination there. The winning goal on the road. The winning goal on the road is almost half the time being scored in the second period. 18 times in the second period to 11 times in the third and 5 in the first. So 46% of the time the winning goal is being scored in the second. The Preds have only won 9 games. 5 of them, they got the winning goal in the second period and 4 times in the third. And when they lose, 43% of the time, the winning goal has been scored in the second period. So that's 13. The next highest is 7. So that's a pretty decent gap to that. So 43%. The home team winning this year in Preds games, 49 times to the road teams winning 29. So 35% of the time, the home team has gotten the winning goal in the second period. And the road team 41% of the time in the second period. That third period is rather close when you look at it on whether the home or road team wins. This biased by the fact that the road team, the Preds being the road team, have been so lackluster. But that losing the games and just rolling over are two different things. So the other team does have to work to score the goal. So it does kind of. The stats on this is significant. 12 times in the second and 10 in the third. So the numbers are kind of bunched between the second and third when you look at it from that viewpoint, but the second period still has the edge on the third. Just in general, on the road, 46% in the second period. So pretty strong that the winning goal will be scored in the second period when the Preds are on the road. 2 games left, so one would be and one would not be. As soon as I say that, neither will be. That's all that has to happen is I have to point this stuff out. Goal scoring. Again, the Preds are being outscored in every period on the road. At least at home, they've got one period where they outscore, but on the road, they're being outscored. They're being outscored by 15 in the first, but they're only scoring 22, so they're almost being outscored by as many goals as they've scored. 17 in the second, which is 50%. The Preds get 34 goals to the opponent's 51, and then 16 in the third. The delta there on the empty nets is 5. So they're being outscored by 11. So basically 50%, 22 goals in the third to 33 when you take out the empty net goals, 28 to 46. So the biggest delta is the first period. 15, which is especially from a percentage. So it's 15 in the first, 17 in the second, and 16 in the third. So it's the lowest, but it's the highest percentage for what the Predators are scoring. In general, the Preds on the road are scoring 2.2 goals to the opponent's 3.5. Taking out empty nets, it becomes 2 to 3.2. When they win, 4.1 to the opponent's 2, and when they lose, 1.6 to the opponent's 4. So 4 goals in general wins the game. There have been 17 empty net goals in the 39 games. Not even half a goal, but I guess it does come down to 3.4 for the Preds when they win, taking out the empty net goals to 2, and the opponent's 3.6 to 1.6. So definitely just being outscored. Special teams on the road was really good in the first period, but now the opponents have gotten 3 power play goals in the first period since I mentioned that they hadn't. They hadn't until maybe a month ago. But the percentage is still pretty low, 7% for the opponents in the first, 3 goals on 45 opportunities. Just to contrast that, so that's the opponents on their home ice. Nashville on their home ice scores 29% of the time in the first period. So 7% for the opponents, 29 for Nashville. So you got to like that. 10 on 34 opportunities. The opponents have had 11 more opportunities and scored 7 less goals. But the game is on the other people's ice, so the Predators have also scored 3 goals on the power play in the first period, so that number is the same, but less than half of the number of opportunities. The Preds have had 21 opportunities to the opponent's 45. So the Preds, 14%, but same number of goals on less than half the opportunities. You gotta wonder about that. Here in Nashville, the opponents in Nashville have close to the same number. The Nashville does have 4 more opportunities than the opponents, 34 to 30. And you really look at this on the road and you go, that doesn't look good. The number of opportunities is out of balance, and the question is why. And I don't. There's some discussion about the number of penalties being down this year. I don't know. I know that it seems like there's really inconsistent calling. The other night, one of our guys got slammed. I think it was Evangelista got slammed into the boards, and The guy got a 2-minute rough versus McCarron, who hit somebody, not into the boards, just hit them. He got a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. And it just then an Evangelista in one game got a high stick in front of the other team's goaltender, cut his lip, no call. And one game where, this one guy was hacking and slashing and pushing people, and he's just doing everything, no call. And then one of our guys face washed, which means put the glove into the guy's face, split second, and got called for a minor penalty. And it's just the penalties from crew to crew vary wildly. I think very more wildly this year than I have seen, than I remember seeing, and I don't get it. I just don't get it. I know they bias against certain players, because apparently, Jonathan Quick could be in goal in the crease. Somebody could come by, whack him in the head with the stick, and they wouldn't call it. But if we touched the other goaltender, then they would call a penalty on the Kings. And so there's certain players that Dustin Brown was another one of those that nobody would call. I remember this one time we were playing Arizona. Mike Smith was the goaltender, and Dustin Brown was standing in front of him in the crease, and Mike Smith took his stick, put his stick above his shoulder, slashed the knee of Dustin Brown. And Dustin Brown went down to the ice. They called Dustin Brown for diving. Now, they did get Mike Smith for the 2-minute, slash, but seriously, he got hit in the back of the knee. And he got called for an unsportsmanlike penalty for diving. It's just sometimes you just wonder about what they're calling. And but this year, I think it's been incredibly inconsistent. And I don't buy that, they're just not trying to call penalties. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. If the NHL wants to stop calling roughs, then take it out of the rule book. Don't just say, hey, refs, don't call this thing, right? It's on the books. Because if it's on the books, they can call it. And so they do. You can say, they're being told not to call this except in judgmental situations, and then they judgment that it's being called, and then it's being rendered inconsistently. And that's why in that one game where they were just not calling anything, Marchmont went nuts at this one point and dropped the stick, went over, hit this one guy, and then you saw the penalties that they called out of that, and you're like, well, that's just totally bogus. I don't, whatever game it was, St. Louis or whatever, that was just stupid. Whatever got called wasn't even what happened. I think they missed the call on what they should have called against Marchmont, and they missed the call on what they should have called on the other guys, and it was just, you can't do that. Just can't do that. But anyway, so huge imbalance when the Preds are on the road between the number of penalties, the power plays they're getting versus the power plays the opponents are getting. And in the first period, the second period is close, 42-50. The third period, a little more weighted back to the Preds, 46-35. But in general, 109-130. So 21 more opportunities for the opponents than the Preds, and they've got 5 goals in those additional 21 opportunities. So the numbers on the power play are the best for both the Nashville and the opponents in the second, 29% and 28%. Surprising for the Preds because the Preds tend not to score very much in the second period and it's pretty anemic. But on the power play, they have 12 goals on 42 opportunities, so pretty good, way above their average. 14% in the first and 9% in the third, so very anemic otherwise. The opponents do 20% in the third period 7-on-35. But yeah, second period power plays you got to pay attention. I guess that's just that is the point here, besides the other point about inconsistent refereeing. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about the matchups. Utah is coming to Nashville. As far as scoring goes, both of these teams are in the bottom half of the league in overall and in every period. The Utah is 21st in the league overall, 22nd in the first, 17th in the second, 25 in the third. Fairly even scoring for them and for the Preds, 64 in the first, 77 in the second, 76 in the third. The Preds, 59, 70, and 65. So the Utah has scored 5 more goals in the first than the Preds, 7 more in the second, and 11 more in the third. The Preds dip back down, the second period being, oddly enough, the period where they score most of their goals. They are last in the league in the third period at 65 goals being scored. As far as giving up goals, Utah has given up 232, which means they've only given up 8 more goals than they've scored, which is pretty good. If you one of those teams that have more goals for than goals against, you're in the playoffs, and that's how close they were. Right now, it's 8 goals. St. Louis, when we played them, the second time this year, they were behind, and now they're not. So they made up that they were close, but goals for being more than goals against, and you've got a playoff spot. And that those 8 goals, I think you'd have to say, is where Utah dropped the ball, dropped the puck. Giving up goals, they're pretty good in the first period. They're 31st in the league in scoring against, with 52. The Preds are 17th with 66. So they don't like to give up a lot of goals, but then they swamp it around and they give them up in the second and third. The Preds do too. The Preds are pretty good in the first period. They're in the bottom half of the league in the first period in scoring. Fifth, though, jump up to fifth with 95 in the second period and 10th in the third for 89. The Preds have given up 5 more goals than Utah in the third and 8 in the second. So that they like to give up goals in the second and third period. Unfortunately, the Preds aren't really big on scoring in the third period. Utah not big either. They're 25th in the league in scoring in the third period. So I don't know. You might just see these guys skate around the ice and kind of look at each other. It's not going to work out that way. Somebody will be on a power play, probably in the second period. So, the second period power plays would be the place to pay attention. Otherwise, it's probably a nice nap. Oh, no, it doesn't work out that way because both of these teams, they're playing similar teams. So that's, wow, that team, the game the other night, 7-6. I think that's the most goals the Preds have scored this season. It has to be close. I doubt that they have played more have scored more than 7 games. See, Predator totals, 7 is the most that they have scored this season. So, that's 7 against the Islanders. Well, they've done it twice. I guess they got 7 against San Jose back in January. So twice this season they've gotten 7, and you just don't see that. But I think, you get 2 teams like this, Utah and Nashville, and you could see a lot more scoring, especially tough, right? Because both teams are out of the playoffs. So, they still want to play hard, but could be playing in situations that they're not used to because they're just because the coaches are mixing things up because they can, just to see how things work out. to get ready for next season. Utah's only got a few more games left. The Preds have had a couple of months. So I think that there's, the Preds have played around with that a little bit more. They haven't really called up as many players as I thought they would to audition them, maybe because they just don't have that much room in the right now in the locker room. But Utah could switch things up a little bit. They got this Yamamoto guy. He's now back. And they called him up before they knew they were going to be out. But I mean, they knew they were going to be not going to make it. So yeah, I think the Yamamoto is going to be somebody to watch. Continuing in the special teams situation, let's look at the penalty kill. Utah is 11th in the league, and Nashville is 8th. So they're both pretty good penalty kill teams. Just, I guess for the Preds, just not in the second period on the road. But both about 81%. Utah is 80.9, Nashville 81.1. Utah has given up 45 goals on 235 attempts. Nashville 43 on 228. So they've given up 2 less on 7 less attempts. As far as shorthanded goals that they have scored, the Preds are at the bottom of the league with 1. And they are the only team that has 1 shorthanded goal. There are no teams with 0. But, yeah, so anyway, the Preds did give up a shorthanded goal the other night. We'll talk about that in the power play discussion. Utah has given up 4, which is 28th in the league. There's a whole bunch of teams at 4, so I think they are the bottom. I think 28th is the first team with 4, but Utah's 235 opportunities on the penalty kill is 3rd highest in the league. So the 3rd highest number of times on the penalty kill and 11th most effective. And that's not the ratio that you're looking for. Nashville is 9th in the number of opportunities and 8th in the league on the penalty kill. So that's so they're better. Their penalty kill is better than the number of opportunities they've given up. So I think that's been a strength of the Nashville team this year. You got to look at whatever you can, but yeah, they've been a good penalty kill team this year. I just need to stop taking so many penalties. As far as the power play goes, these teams are pretty close again. Utah is 15th and Nashville is 19th, 23% to 21.2. Utah has scored 51 goals on 222 opportunities to the Preds 46 on 217. So they scored 5 more goals on 5 more opportunities. So the teams are very close in the number of opportunities on both the penalty kill and power play. As far as scoring, as far as giving up shorthanded goals, Utah has given up 7, which is 14th in the league, and the Preds have given up 5. It was 4, but they've given up 5 now, which is 22nd in the league, so the bottom half. Both teams right there around the middle of the league, so I guess the power play, they're just kind of, both teams are kind of like middle of the league, the average. So that's not bad. I mean, and the penalty kill is good. So yeah, we'll see how that works out in the second period of tonight's game. Goaltending, as I mentioned, Connor Ingram was the starter at the beginning of the year, 9-8-4. Then he got injured in November, came back in January and had a couple of sporadic starts, and then in March went out. And so looking at the data, you can guess what might have happened, but you don't really know. So Utah had to start out one way with Connor Ingram with Karel Vejmelka as the backup. Vejmelka became the starter, so he's 25-21-7. And so then, since the backup became the starter, then they brought up Jackson Stauber for the backup, but he didn't play that much, 2-1-1. And then they sent him down and brought up Matt Vallata on the 28th of March. They swapped those two, and he hasn't been in a game yet. Vejmelka has played the last 21 games. I thought I had misread that because with Vallata and Vejmelka, maybe the V threw me off, and so I had to go back and look a couple of times. But yeah, Vejmelka has played in the last 21 games. I'm not Stauber, I mean, he's 2-1-1, but Vallata has no stats, so I don't know that they've even bothered to swap out goaltenders. I didn't look at that. In the game against Utah earlier this year, Ingram was in goal, and that was a loss for Utah, 0-4 in Nashville. Last year, Ingram was in goal for all 4 games, so he was 3-1 because Arizona just had Nashville's number last year. One of those crazy things, right? I mean, Nashville made the playoffs last year. Arizona did not. But Arizona just had the number, had Nashville's number. Since it seemed like Vejmelka was going to be in goal until the end of time, and I'm not sure he's allowed to leave the ice. I guess they do have to travel, so he's got to at least leave the ice to travel. But he's played 21 straight games. They're eliminated. He's not even goal tonight. I guarantee you he gets the night off. Guarantee you. So I'm betting it's Vallata in goal for Utah tonight. Yeah. For Nashville, UC Saros, 18-30-6. Most of the season was playing 2 or 3 for each one of Justice Annanens. That's changed. They seem to be alternating now. Why not? It's the end of the season. There's not nothing to play for, but there's no reason to have one guy going so often when the other guy can get some playing time, get some experience. And so I think, Noonan is 8-10-1. So I think they're alternating right now. Saros was in goal earlier this year against Utah, so he's 1-0. Last year against Arizona, Saros was in goal for all 4. So he's 1-3. The last game was a 4-8 loss in Arizona, and they did in Lankinen did bring in Lankinen for the third period of last game. Interesting trying to go back and look to see what happened last season because Arizona's been wiped off the face of the earth. You can't go back and look at their records on NHL.com. I mean, they show up in gray. They just disappeared. So I had to pull up every game and then look at the box score to see who was in goal, both for Arizona and for Nashville. And I don't know. I don't think that's smart. I just don't think that's smart. I kind of get it, but not really. I think they should be better about honoring the history that they have, and not focusing just on what's, Arizona's not a team anymore, so they've just wiped them off the face of the earth. I don't believe that. I think, they were part of the NHL, and the NHL should find a way to embrace that. Now, the NHL site in general sucks. ESPN does the same thing, I guess, because kind of ESPN is not hockey. You can't find Arizona there either, but the history of the NHL goes back to 1925. The long history. Teams have come and gone, and there's no reason to pretend they didn't exist. Too many personal examples come up of where people have just washed part of their history out of discussion. But anyway, we don't need to go there today. Let's stick to hockey. Hey, who wants to talk about hockey? Everybody raise your hand. Nobody. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about hockey anyway. I didn't even raise my hand. But anyway, so that's what happened last year. And Noonan did play against the Islanders in the last game. So Saros, misspelled that, but Saros in goal tonight versus Utah. Like I said, I believe they're going to be alternating from here on out. So, why not? I'm going to get a preview here before moving on to the next segment. I have done a breakdown of the performance of the Nashville Predators against all the teams based upon division. And I went back and I did it for last year too. It really, really interesting. Last year's, the Preds being, in the playoffs and having a decent record made that a lot more interesting reading. It's not that it's uninteresting reading here in this year. These stats are generally available. The Preds are 10, 11, and 2 against the Central Division, which is almost a 500 record. I mean, it's not too bad. 9, 12, and 2 against Pacific, but not very good against the Eastern Conference. 4, 10, and 2 against the Atlantic, and 5, 9, and 2 against the Metropolitan. And then the goals for in the win, goals for in a loss, that kind of stuff. That was the latest analysis that I've done because I thought it would be kind of interesting. And it does get interesting comparing it to last year. And I think that's I'm going to get to that after the season is over, and then that way I've just got seasons worth of data to discuss and just kind of go from there. But anyway, I had that. I've got a new tab on my spreadsheet. All right, so people to watch. As I've mentioned, number 56 right wing Kyler Yamamoto is the guy I think is the sneaky guy to look out for. He's got a shooting percentage of 22.2%. Okay, he's got 2 goals on 9 shots, but that's still 22.2%. He's played 9 games. In October, he played 3 games with 1 shot. So discount that. That was early in the season. Then he got sent back down. March, he got brought back up. He played 2 games. He got 1 goal on 3 shots. 1 game on 3 shots in 2 games. And then in April, so he's been up and back. And he's played 4 games, and he's got 1 goal on 5 shots. So that in and of itself is 20%. He was 33% in March. So I given where they're at in the season, I'm thinking number 56 is the guy to watch because you just don't know. Now, granted, first in everything is number 9. Clayton Keller, which is kind of nice because the guy to watch for the Preds is number 9. So if you're listening to this, you're going to be watching the game. You're not familiar with either team. If the number 9 is on the ice, sit up and pay a little bit of attention. But number 9 center Clayton Keller, Utah here. He's first in goals, first in assists, first in points, first in plus minus, first worst plus minus, negative 13. 6th in time on ice, but that's first for forwards, and he's first in shots, 207. So he's the first guy. Number 9. His sidekicks are number 11, right wing Dylan Gunther, second in goals with 26 and second in shots. And then number 8 center Nick Schmaltz, second in assists, second in points, second worst plus minus. So, they're probably all on the ice at the same time. So if you're watching number 9, then you're going to catch up with what's going on. The guy on the ice the most, defenseman Mikhail Sergachev, he's on the ice 25:08, but that's about it. So yeah, I think it's pretty easy. Look for number 9 and number 56. Number 9 and 56 for Utah. For the Nashville Predators, of course, number 9, Philip Forsberg, first in goals, first in assists, first in points. Just comparing first in points, Utah's first in points is 84. Nashville is 72, but first in goals is 30 to their 27. So, Forsberg is not first in time on ice. That's Ryan O'Reilly, who's fourth in everything, including fourth in time on ice, but it just happened to be the first in forward. But Forsberg is also first in shots with 273. And, so pretty much, if there's a 9 on their back for Nashville, 91, Steven Stamkos, and number 90, center Ryan O'Reilly. And number 81 back, Jonathan Marchessault, divisible by 9. So, yeah. And that's it. I guess the one thing to note, April has been a good month for Stamkos so far. 4 goals on 11 shots, so that's better than 33%. I didn't do the math, not going to do the math. But he's also got 2 assists. So 11 shots, 4 goals, 2 assists. So April is Stamkos month. Too bad it's ending. As far as momentum goes, Utah did just get eliminated, but they do have a 2-game winning streak. Being eliminated, not their fault last night. Their fault happened earlier with the 8 goals they shouldn't have given up. They are 6-3-1 in their last 10. I think you can kind of throw that out the window. I think you're going to see their backup goaltender in. I think they might try some different combinations. Don't think that they have to worry about their positioning as far as the draft goes. They've got 84 points. They're 1 point behind Vancouver. They are 5 points ahead of the Red Wings. So I don't know that, whatever position this is, mid-pack of the league is worth fighting for. So I don't, pride. I mean, you're always going to be trying to play your best. But yeah, I think some of the wind just got pulled out of the sails, which means they're a dangerous team. They'll win-lose. It's not going to affect Nashville's fate. They did win in overtime after a 6-game losing streak, which makes them 3-7-0 in the last 10. But another team that, kind of auditioning for next year, prepping for next year. So that's why we're seeing Annunen in goal a little bit more. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised not seeing more of the minor league players being called up. But, yeah, I mean, you got to do what your strategy is, and so the Preds are doing what their strategy is. So both teams could be a fun game because of the position that both teams are in. Utah going to have a little bit of like I said, wind out of their sails. They are finishing up a home streak, a home stand. So they've been home for a little while. The game is at 8:00 Central tonight. So a little bit later than my bedtime, but close anyway. But anyway, yeah, so it should be a fun game. Hopefully it's fast. The Preds have been skating really well. Those Toronto-Carolina games, they skated really well. Oh, my gosh. Really saw that the team, which we've known all season, the team is better than their record. The team is way better than their record. And they're still not playing up to their potential. But hopefully they're learning a lot and we'll be able to go into the off season and come out stronger next season. So that's what you're hoping for. And that's kind of the mentality in Utah too. So, or it will be at some point. All right. Well, hey, thanks. Nashville Predators at the Utah Hockey Club tonight, 8:00 Central. Must-see TV if number 9 is on the ice for either team. Oh, and don't forget about number 56, Kyler Yamamoto. All right, thanks for listening. I'm Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.